Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nasalli ala rasulihil kareem. So we continue with the Ruwat, understanding the Ruwat and the different circumstances and different rulings about them. So now we're saying here, min al-muhim. So he said, min al-muhim, this. So from the important things are ma'rifatu kunal musammin, musammain, not musammin, wa asma. I'm copy this Word document from the online somewhere, so obviously got a lot of harakat mistakes. Ma'rifatul musammin is one who's given the name. Musammain is what? Who have been named. Musamma, musammayani, musammawna, musammain. So al-musammain wa asma al-mukannain. So if people have it, like for example, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, obviously we know when Abu Bakr, everybody knows him. But let's say for example, we have to know he's what? So for example, Umar, what do we need to know? His kunya. So that we know, okay, when Amir al-Mu'mineen comes, we know it refers to Umar radiallahu. Obviously everybody knows this, but for example, we need to know that when you say Amir al-Mu'mineen in the Sahaba, it means what? What does it mean? Umar radiallahu anhu. When we say, for example, let's say for example, many Abu Bakr, then we need to know what Abu Bakr's name is what? Abdullah ibn Quhafa. Obviously, it's very obvious, but if imagine it's Tabi'een, so we need to know. So it's important to know the kunya of the people whose names have been taken, and it's also important to know the names of people and the kunya of people whose name has been taken. So you know both of them. So if it's mentioned in different ways, you know who it is. Because if you say, for example, there were two people with the Prophet Hijrah, one was Abu Bakr, one was Abdullah ibn Quhafa. Obviously, we won't make that mistake because we've done it so many times. But if we didn't know this, we've read it introductory. So two names have come regarding the people who have migrated Prophet ﷺ. One was Abu Bakr, and one was named Abdullah ibn Quhafa. We commit a mistake. Obviously, it's very dope because we know all of this, that it's the same person. But if we didn't know, so you need to know that it's the same person. You don't get mistaken. Yes? Okay. وَمَنِ اسْمُهُ كُنْيَتُهُ. Some people's, their name is a kunya. So for example, like for example, Kulthum. So it could be a kunya, she got a daughter, she has a son named Kulthum. Or her name is Kulthum. You follow? So Kulthum could be a name of a person individually, or it could be her name is Fatima Kulthum. Her name is Fatima, but she got a daughter, a son named Kulthum, so she's named Kulthum. You understand? You follow? You also need to know Man ikhtalifa fi kunyatihi. For example, Abu Hurairah, what's his name? What is his name? Some say Abdul Rahman is like Abu Hurairah became his name. Yes? You need to know something ikhtilaf, it's got different kunya, or it's not sure what his kunya is. You need to know this as well. Basically, you need to know the rawi properly, basically. That's what he's saying here. Okay? وَمَنْ كَثُرَتْ كُنَاهُ أَوْ نُعُوتُهُ. It's got many kunya, many nu'ut. So that you know, okay, when they're all the same person, you don't get mixed up. Okay? وَمَنْ وَافَقَتْ كُنْيَتُهُ إِسْمَ أَبِيهِ. So for example, Abi Ishaq, Ibrahim ibn Ishaq. So his name is what? His name is Abu Ishaq. And his father is what? So his name is Ishaq. So if his father's name is Ishaq, his name is Abu Ishaq. Yes? And his father's name is what? Ishaq. So basically he's giving all examples of different places where you get mixed up. So basically, don't make yourself like a clown thinking they're different people and they're really the same people. That's what it is. Yeah? Or Bil Aqs Ishaq ibn Abi Ishaq. So his name is Ishaq, his father is Abu Ishaq, because Ishaq ibn Abi Ishaq. So this is what he's saying basically. Don't mix up in these things. Or kunyatuhu kunyatu zawjatihi. Him and his wife got the same kunya. Abu Ayyub and Ayyub. Who's Abu Ayyub? Where the Prophet ﷺ stayed with him the first time Hijrah and the Ansari. وَمَنْ نُسِبَ إِلَىٰ غَيْرِ أَبِيهِ is also very important. There's some people, they have the kunya to the grandfather. So remember that came Abu Dawud recently? It was, I can't remember, it was a companion. So for example, Abdullah ibn Atiq, for example. So his father is really Abdullah ibn Jabr. But because he's known by his grandfather's kunya, Abdullah ibn Jabr as well. So I think it was a mistake. It's not really a mistake. It's like, for example, Muhammad is also Muhammad ibn Abdullah, and he's also known as Muhammad ibn Abdul Muttalib. Because Abdullah passed away quite young and not well known, that's why the Prophet also attributed his grandfather. So you don't get mixed up. Is it mistaken the Rawi? Has he mixed? So you know that, okay, sometimes he's attributed to his grandfather. Instead of saying what? Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Muhammad ibn Abdul Muttalib. That can happen, so you don't get confused. That, okay, two different people. You know, it's the same person. Or ila ummihi, Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Salul. So Ibn Salul is his mother. Ibn Majah, that's not his father's name. So things like this, you know that, okay. Or ila ghayri ma yasbiqu ilayhi al-fahm. So for example, there's one Hadha. Remember that one Hadha came? Why is he called Hadha? Not because she was not a cobbler, but what? He used to hang around the cobblers, so he's called what? Hadha. Yes? Sometimes, for example, I want to call Humayr al-Tawil. So he wasn't really tall. but he's taller than the other Humayd, slightly taller than the other Humayd. So he was normal size, but he's not called he's Tawil called Tawil, but not because he's tall, but because what? It was two Humayd and one was a bit taller than the other one, so you call him a Tawil, but he's not tall. So sometimes you need to know this so that you, so Haddad. Someone's called a Haddad. He wasn't a Haddad. He wasn't a blacksmith. But he used to live in the area, so called a Haddad. You find, or you sit with them. So all of these things you need to become. Man ittafaqa ismuhu wasmu abihi wa jaddihi. Him, his name is the same. Abdullah ibn Abdullah ibn Abdullah, for example. For example, Abdullah ibn Umar. So it's similar. Abdullah ibn Umar. Now, wasmuhu wa shaykhihi. So for example, his name is the same, his sheikh name is the same. Abdullah and Abdullah. So you know, okay, well, his name and his sheikh name is the same. So so you need to know all of these things. So you when you're doing riwayah, you understand what's going on. So there's nothing really to explain in here. Just saying basically, beware of all of this pitfalls. So you don't get mixed up. You think, oh, this is mudraj or mutlaq or rawi's mahzoof or two different riwayat. You know really what's going on. And what you have on here, ittafaqa ismu shaykhihi wa rawi anhu. Like the sheikh is the same. So for example, if you look at it here, okay. So Bukhari. So if you look at it in the middle, you have Bukhari. And who's Bukhari's teacher? Muslim ibn Ibrahim. Yes? And who's Bukhari's student as well? Imam Muslim. Imam Muslim is actually Imam Bukhari's student. So Muslim ibn Hajjaj. So now Muslim ibn al-Hajjaj. So if you say, Haddathana Muslim and Bukhari and Muslim. So Imam Bukhari's student is also called Muslim and his teacher is also called Muslim. You understand? So you know this as well, so you don't get mixed up. You understand? Yes? Yes? Ma'rifatul asma al-mujarrada wal-mufrada. Yes? Like for example, only one person has that name. It's also important to know that person. Only one person got that name. Only one person got the kunya. Al-Qab, Laqab, Faruq, Affan, the Nurain, the Janahain. Yes? But again, I'll give you an example of Sahabi because you can click them. In the Ruwat, you have these different names so you know who they are. So again, it's just basically know these things. When you're reading the books of Asma al-Rijal, make sure you understand these and know the differences so you don't get mixed up. Okay, now we're saying it ansab, we have a nasab. What does nasab mean? You attribute someone to something, isn't it? So what happens in attribution? You attribute to Qaba'il, Al-Qurayshi, Al-Awtan, Watan, Madani. You get here, Balad, Khurasani. Diya is what? Land, the land that he lives in. Or Sikak, or what? The gullies he lives in, the gullies and the streets, the area he lives in. Yes? Or Mujawiratan, he doesn't live there, but he lives close by that. So, it's like, for example, like when you go to India, they call you Londoni. Because like, they don't know Leicester, so if you live in England, Londoni. So you don't live in London, but you live Mujawir, close to London. So they call you, everybody from England is called Londoni. In the Murdisa, they call it a Londoni. So it's different ways of, or ila sana'i wal hiraf, sometimes they call it Haddad, because Haddad is a job. So the nisbah that you have, sometimes it's to the locality, the city, the father, the tribe, the city, the street names. Something you're close by, something your occupation. Yes? You following? You got it? And even in this, you can have muftariq and muttafiq, and mu'talif and mukhtalif, and mutashabih. Yes? وَيَقَعُ فِيهَا الْإِتِّفَاقُ وَالْإِشْتِبَاكَ الْأَسْمَاءِ. Written the same way, written different ways, dots and not dots, you can get mixed pronunciations. Yes? Are you following? Sometimes somebody's nasab, وَتَقَعُ الْأَنْسَابُ أَلْقَابًا. Sometimes a nasab becomes like a laqab. Yes? Can't think of an example. وَمَعْرِفَةُ أَسْبَابِ. That you need to know all of these things basically. Are you following? You guys, you following? Okay. وَمَعْرِفَةُ الْمَوَالِي مِنْ أَعْلَى وَمِنْ أَسْفَلْ وَبِالرِّقِّ أَوْ بِالْحِلْفِ. So in those times you have slavery. So when you say a mawla, so mawla fulan. So mawla can mean whom? The one who frees this, mawla can mean what? The freed slave, it can also mean what? The one who's freeing. When we had that, we had what? Mawla fulan. So is it the one who freed her, the one she freed? So the mawla from the a'la is what? What's the mawla from a'la going to be? The one above you, one who freed you. Or mawla min asfal, the freed slave. Sometimes you have a mawla, but mawla doesn't mean birriq. It doesn't mean birriq. Riq means it's called slavery. Yes, but it means what? Bil-hilf. That when you, like, because obviously, what would happen in those times, you would have act of hilf. When you become Muslim, or when you come into society, you don't have a tribe, you don't have anything. So certain like inheritance, you become Muslim, right? And you're the only person in the city. Now, in terms of help, assistance, in terms of if you commit any jinaya, any crime, who will pay your diya? If you die, who will inherit from you? So you can have hilf. You take a hilf that he's my mawla. He's part of our community. So if he does anything wrong, we'll pay for him. Like if he like a car accident, well, obviously car accident not the time, but like something by mistake, his horse steps on somebody's foot, and a person gets foot damage, who will have to pay the jinaya, the penalty? We'll pay for it. When he dies, we'll inherit from him. Like so that's called hilf. So something is a mawla, not a slave. Like for example, I think Imam Bukhari called al-Ju'fi. So al-Ju'fi is not because he didn't hilf with that tribe. Do you understand? Yes. وَمَعْرِفَةُ الْإِخْوَةِ وَالْأَخَوَاتِ, who are the brothers, who are the sisters. Yes. وَمَعْرِفَةُ آدَابِ الشَّيْخِ وَالطَّالِبِ. And also when you're studying hadith, you need to know the adabs of hadith. How you should come to class. You sit with respect. Sit in a state of wudu. Have good attire. Be in tahara. How to not to look around. Pay attention. Have sincerity. Write with respect. Make sure the notes are written properly. All of these things. Yes. So the shaykh, how do you narrate hadith? How do you should make dua for your teachers? You say rahimahullah, radiyallahu anhu, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. All of these things you also know this. Obviously it's not to do narration, but adab of hadith is also very important. Man la adaba lahu la ilma lahu. Yes. وَسِنِّ التَّحَمُّلِ وَالْأَدَاءِ. The age of what ages you come to study, what ages you start narrating hadith. Yes. Then the next thing we have here is, okay, let's stop. Okay, so Sinnu Tahammuli wal Ada. So that's where we stop it. So again, today's lesson was just basically information. It was nothing to explain really. So basic summary is basically, you need to know the ruwat properly. If you don't know the ruwat properly, you get mixed up between maqlub. You get mixed up between, is a rawi missing or not? Is it two different rawis? They've got two different names. So you might think, okay, there's a mistake. He got the wrong rawi. It's not the wrong rawi, he got a different name. One place is mentioned kunya, one place is mentioned by what? His name. One he got multiple kunya. So all of these things you need to know so you don't get mixed up in the ruwat. And this will come with practice. You can't just learn this. This is not to do with fahm, it's to do with what? Memory. As you come across ruwat in the books of hadith and you see them and you narrate from, you read every riwayah, you get more and more familiar with them. Okay, he's got different names. He's from his father, lineage, etc. You understand that. Okay, it's not something that you can explain to you. It's like note these things when you have the ruwat. Okay, subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.